and thanks for CIPHER organizers. It has definitely, throughout this last 5 years, definitely learned a ton of things from colleagues, and it has always been a great conference and a very targeted conference to attend. So just a quick heads up, due to the time limitation, I'm going to talk specifically about mode preference trends rather than, and then in our paper brief, we are talking about both mode and device preference trends. And I would like to acknowledge my co-authors, Erica Archie, Susan Clapp, and Orlina Henderwan, all members of AmerSpeak team. So as we know, there are two main strategies to include the non-internet population in web-only or web-mostly panels. Number one is providing devices and or internet connection, but one of the disadvantages of this approach is that it does not fully solve the non-response mode problem, right? Especially for those who are reluctant to use the internet, those are less likely to participate. Then you have the second approach, the mixed mode approach with providing an offline mode. The advantage of this is that it solves the non-response mode problem, but you still have the potential mode effects, and it requires the integrated sample management and data collection system. Why do we want to cover the non-internet population? It's because we know they are demographically different from the internet population, as well as their attitudes and behaviors are different than the internet population. However, this literature is coming from data sets that are from a decade ago. This is such a dynamic area of research that this research may be already outdated. So let's do a deep dive on this. So based on Pew Research Center's tech adoption trends, we see that the digital divide has been significantly narrowing in the US over the last decade. So in terms of both internet penetration and smartphone use. We see these trends hold when weaved by various demographic characteristics. Here I only present age because it's the most drastic and dramatic trend that is narrowing. So the digital divide we are definitely seeing being narrowed when it comes to internet use. Not as drastic, but we still see that with the smartphone ownership as well, so you definitely see these digital gap narrowing. So what this all means, like at a structural level, this whole increases in internet penetration and smartphone use over time may also shape change in respondents' mode preference. And those trends. However, this is still a research question to be explored, right? They may still use internet, they may still use smartphone, but they may be still reluctant to take surveys via web or may not be comfortable responding via web. So those are two different concepts. So let's investigate if this whole trends translate to the mode preference trends. So the two big main questions here that we have investigated is, number one, what's the impact of increase in internet and smartphone use, increase on mode and device preference over time in a web mostly panel, which is AmerSpeak, and I will be presenting results of mode and device preference mode preference trends since the start of AmerSpeak panel, which is about a decade ago. Again, I'll specifically focus on mode preference trends, but if you are interested in the device preference trends, we are writing a brief on that. And then the second question is if and how panelist mode and device preference trends impact retention, completion rate, and survey data quality, some of our key indicators of that we monitor over time. So why am I looking at all these results? Well, first of all, these are going to give us some insight on the strategies that are used to include the non-internet populations in probability-based web and web mostly panels. But also, I look at these trends, or we look at these trends as a team to inform each year us about our interventions during recruitment and retention strategies. So let's talk about a little bit of background and data. Again, I am looking at AmerSpeak trends, so let's talk a little bit about the AmerSpeak recruitment methodology. Here, AmerSpeak uses address-based sampling design, and we initially sent a series of USPS mailings to the sampled households. In these mailings, we include both a web option and an inbound phone option for them to be able to um, respond to our recruitment questionnaire and get impaneled. After the series of mailings, we then call the sampled households that are not non-responding and that are matched a phone number via a vendor database. If they still do not respond, then they are 1 out of every 5 non-responding households are sampled into the non-response follow-up program, and these households receive a FedEx with enhanced incentives, as well as again the URL of the recruitment survey and an inbound phone. If they still do not respond, we go and knock on their doors. And then this is the slide I would like you to pay attention to, because this is the main variable I'm going to talk about. During the recruitment survey, AmerSpeak panelists are offered opportunities to choose their preferred mode, either web or phone, during future participation of the subsequent AmerSpeak surveys. So the phone mode is specifically given in order to cover that non-internet population, as I mentioned. So this whole idea made a lot of sense 10 years ago, or almost 10 years ago, when AmerSpeak started. As you see, almost a quarter of people during the recruitment stage were preferring the phone mode. So when we look at now, 2023, we only see that 6%. So this is a huge decrease in CADI phone mode preference when we look at mode preference by recruitment here. And just to reorient you with these slides, we are looking at each recruitment year. So this is specifically in that recruitment year, when we give them the recruitment questionnaire, which mode did they select that specific year? And you see here, let me actually mention something here. You see a little bit of a dip in CADI preference there, and you are going to see that trend in 2020 and 2021. That's mainly because of the pandemic. We didn't do in-person data collection, so you really can see that it breaks the trends here. We are making that up in 2022 and 2023. We went back to these NERF households, but I did not include those households here, just so to keep the charts clean here. So when we look at the web preference change by age, we really see that the web preference is, even among 65 plus years, is definitely increasing. About 80% nowadays of 65 plus years is now web preference. So it went from 60% to 80%. When we look at education, the gap is even smaller. It's definitely more narrowing when we look at high school diploma and less than high school. For instance, less than high school went from 45% CAVI preference 10 years ago to about like 84% there. And with minorities, this gap is even more narrowing, as we see Hispanic and non-Hispanic, African American, Black minorities. The web preference is definitely increasing. Here, for instance, nowadays our non-Hispanic, African American, Black panelists, 92% of the time, 92% of them prefer web. So we talked about like demographics and then narrowing this device preference and the trend of more preference moving towards web. But what does this mean when it comes to retention? So when we look at all versus active panelists, we see that the caddy folks are more likely to iterate. So it's actually to our benefit that the CAVI preference panelists are increasing. Same with completion rate. Our caddy respondents are their completion rates are lower, so our web respondents, their completion rates are higher. So this definitely decreases the acceleration of decrease of completion trends. So it really helps with the decrease of completion rates over time. So why do we see CAVI retention and completion rents that are higher than CADI? Well, burden is number one. CADI is 1.5 times lengthier and longer than responding to web, so our panelists definitely prefer web or over phone. There's also the ease of use, right? The self-administered nature of web definitely makes web more convenient to respond than CADI, even if we provide an inbound option. So web preference increase definitely decelerates attrition and non-response. So we also, I didn't really get to it due to the time limitation, but we also see a smartphone use increase in the last decade. Nowadays, 60% of our panelists are taking surveys via a smartphone. So that's a huge increase. It used to be, only a quarter back in the day. So again, these results guide our 2024 new recruit retention experiment strategies. So number one, we are leaning more heavily on SMS, more thinking about leaning on our app, as well as when we want to increase some of, bring back some of those attrition, we send mailings that encourages people to use the portal. So definitely a discussion point, do we want to still abandon the mixed mode? I don't think that's the case. We still see high demographic differences, but again, it definitely suggests some shift of resources. Thank you very much.